Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Fracture Files, the silver linings of geriatric fracture care. My name is Megan Sorich. I'm an orthopedic surgeon that specializes in geriatric fracture care from the UT Southwestern in Dallas, Texas. And today we have Dr. Carmen Quatman joining us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carmen Quatman. I'm also an orthopedic trauma surgeon that specializes in geriatric care. I work at The Ohio State in Columbus, Ohio, and very excited to join today to talk a little bit about home modifications. So I think previous talks Megan and I have shared have been around the hip fracture timeframe, but I think there's so much opportunity to start to talk about how to make someone's home safe when they're making that transition after a hip fracture home, or going even further upstream and thinking about how to make your home safe to try to prevent that hip fracture in the first place.
Yeah, this is a really exciting topic because, as you may or may not know, but a lot of these falls happen in one's home. And so going back to your home after a major event like this is sometimes scary. And I feel like today we're very fortunate because Dr. Quatman is one of the experts on this, not only professionally, but also in her research.
Yeah, thanks. I'll start with giving a little bit of background myself. I had an injury in my early 30s that required me to have surgery on both legs. And when I got back to my home and trying to get into my own house with 3 stairs was just this tremendous pivot moment for me. I had this tremendous fear of falling. I just couldn't shake it. Navigating around my house just felt very scary. And I realized that many patients feel this way, and we don't really give them that opportunity to know how to make that a safer transition. So we often teach people how to maybe navigate using a walker and getting into their house, but we forget the rest of it. We don't really have the opportunity to even talk to the depth of what they might experience in their own home. And so I had worked on stairs, but I hadn't worked on stairs without a railing, and my house didn't have a railing. So it was a really eye-opening moment for me and really transitioned a lot of my early work. So when I did my fellowship, I started to work with some of the paramedics in the area who deal a lot with people calling 911 for falls specifically. And one of the areas that was really surprising to me was to hear about this idea of a lift assist. So a lot of people will call 911 for not just a fall, but they're stuck down in a down position, sometimes not even hurt. And they call 911 because they can't get back out of that position. And that is deemed a lift assist. And what was really surprising to me was how often certain people might call over and over again. And if you talk to the paramedic world, they call them high utilizers. So sometimes they'll call twice within the same day, all for the same problem. And thankfully, they're not really hurt, but there's really no intervention strategies that go in place to make that not happen again. So that became a primary focus of much of my research the last 10 years is trying to figure out how we can make homes safer for people who have a difficulty in navigating their own home, or if they happen to have a fall, how they can get back up again. So much of my work is been in partnership with paramedics in the area, which I just tremendously love. But one of the first things I realized was this team is actually an eyes and ears to the system of the home that we never get to see while we're in the hospital. So many times we don't acknowledge or even get true full information from the patient or family of what they're going back to. How many pets do they have? Do they have stairs in home? If they have stairs in their home, do they have the stairs set up in a way that they can navigate them? Are the railings safe? Do they have railings? Do they have a huge transition point where they can take a rest? Are they hoarding? Do they have debris everywhere in their house that caused the fall in the first place? Some of the paramedics will tell you they'll go into the homes and find that they have food for their pets, but not for the person, that they have expired milk that's been in the fridge for more than a year. Things like that we might not think about, but we take for granted. Like if they can't lift something heavy, as simple as a gallon of milk, how are they supposed to take it out of the refrigerator, empty it, and throw it away? How were they taking their garbage out? All these things that we don't really think about become a major health hazard. And so when I think about getting a patient safely back to home, I think about really trying to understand that lens and perspective because we just don't know. And I'm going to add a little funny barrier in there, but even this past weekend, my mom's fire smoke detector started going off, and our ceilings are 11 foot high. And she kept telling me how she was going to go grab the ladder. And all I kept thinking was, oh my goodness, why are you changing the battery in your smoke detector? And why are you climbing a ladder? But it's a very real event that happens in their home that we aren't set up for. So when I try to get a patient ready to go back home, I try to think about all of those things. Like, what is their safety net surrounding them to make sure that they not only get into their home safely, but navigate their home safely? And if something should arise, do they have a support system to help them take care of it? Um, so I guess I'll stop there for a second because I just mentioned a lot, Megan. Any thoughts come to mind?
I think that's you have awesome points. Are there any resources that patients or families can use or that you know of as they're navigating that transition, whether it's from hospital to home or even some type of a rehabilitation center to home? Because most of the time, patients and families, this is the first real event or major event. And when we're preparing our loved one to go back home, what kind of resources can we recommend for our patients to make that home safer?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think it starts with understanding the landscape of what they're going home to. I've been surprised how many people who've had a hip fracture, for example, who live on the third floor of an apartment building and they actually don't have elevators. Or so it starts with just understanding how will they get into their own home. And I also think it starts with understanding that how will they get into their own home later, even if they did go to a skilled nursing facility? Most of that does not happen. And so, like, they just kind of get dropped off at home and told to figure it out. So there's a lot of things you can pre-plan ahead of time to consider. The first is, thinking about the most dangerous spots in the home. Really the bathroom is a huge hazard. Most people are unaware, but if you can't get into your bathroom safely, especially with a gate aid, that's really problematic. You can do things like grab bar installations near the toilet or near the shower. Do they have a walk-in shower is a real critical question, but where do you put them? Who installs them? Who's going to buy them for them? All those things have to be thought out, not just giving that recommendation. And those services really aren't easily accessible in many places, but there are places to start. You can start with a center for aging in your nearby community if you have one. You can try calling on friends and neighbors to see if they've ever had success in doing that. I personally partner a lot with the paramedics in this area because, again, when we acknowledged this problem, they were able to work with their team in the legal team within their group to get permission to do grab bar installations to help facilitate those type of things. The other area that's I think of really high awareness that people don't think about is sometimes going in from a garage into the house or a porch into the home. If there isn't something for somebody to grab onto, that can be a really dangerous, even if it's only one step, it can be a very dangerous step. Often they can be a little bit higher than normal, and that trying to get into the house itself is a true barrier for many people. Another place I think of is the kitchen. So wet spots happen in the kitchen all the time. That's a slippery slope for anybody, let alone someone who's recovering from a hip fracture. There's trying to carry things around the kitchen can be really tough. So you lift something from the microwave down, or you try to take something out of the fridge and move it over. Those are things that people aren't thinking about. So if someone is still in their early kind of recovery stages, it might be too much to ask them to make food or do things like that. So I would personally go watch your own family member navigate that if you're about to make that transition home, see how they do with making their own food because that's a critical need. If you live in an area where they can get delivery of food services, that can be really helpful. But if you don't, then prepackaged food items, things that are easy to eat and often that don't require putting it in the microwave can be really helpful. Um, Another area I think is the main living space that needs to be addressed. Like if there are rugs in the area, if there's sharp corners that they have to, go around a coffee table, all those things really need to be thought out. Um, I I moved my dad in when he was recovering from a major surgery, and that was one of the first things we did. Rolled up all the rugs, tucked them away, made sure that we moved the tables around so that there was enough space to get the gate aid through, making sure that there was one chair that was very well seated so it didn't move when he tried to get in and out of it. It's a main area of location for much of that time. Another area that people don't really think about are narrow hallways, making sure those hallways are well lit, making sure that if that hallway is their like transition to a bathroom, that there's nothing to block the way. So if there's a decorative piece or something that's sticking out, that trying to get those out of the way. And the last thing is the bedroom. The bedroom is actually another place that people will spend, 12 hours a day, they're sleeping there, but if they have to get up and go to the bathroom, is that pathway to the bathroom safe and clear? Is there something they can grab onto to help them get out of bed? Because slipping out of bed is a real problem as they're trying to kind of wake up if they have to go to the bathroom. Make sure that the night tables and things are put in place that they can actually reach whatever they need, but that table is not in the way. So those are just some of the major places that we think about. But I also usually offer and add to people that, there are technology out there now that can help us strategize a bit. So if you have a smart plug, you can have your lights turn on and off by a voice command, for example. Um, there's all kinds of products out there like an Amazon Echo or something that allows you to shout for help. I didn't realize that an Amazon Echo doesn't let you call 911, but you can call a friend to call 911. So things like that like we used to think people need to have like a life alert or something on person to make it to call for help. But I think we can think a little bit more different when with the technologies that are out there to set people up for success. And so that has to be very individualized though. So when you're thinking about that for family members, there's all kinds of ways to be creative. But you have to walk the pathway with them to figure out what those barriers might be.
Yeah, that's a great suggestions. The other thing that I'd like to add is making sure that your family members have their glasses or the correct prescriptions for their glasses. Sometimes the reason they fell was because they couldn't see what they tripped over. So making sure that they're up to date on their contact or glasses prescription. And if they did recently get bifocals, how to navigate stairs with bifocals, because you could kind of get a little bit dizzy. It's a little bit confusing when you're looking down. You're not sure what lens you're looking out of with your bifocals.
Yeah, great points. Another thing you can do to set someone up for success is actually make sure that their pill boxes are filled for them. So go out and get one of the big pill boxes and fill their pill box for them. They're still confused at times, making sure that like they don't have to worry about knowing which pills. Sometimes they leave the hospital with a lot more than they came in with, and making sure that's all set up for success can be really, really helpful.
That's a great suggestion.
So other things that are out there when I think going upstream, one of the things we talk about for fall prevention in general is working on your balance. This is not something that you can fix acutely in a hip fracture setting, but there are some things you can do to help your family member or yourself be prepared for in the world of physical therapy, for example, or in real world life situations. We call them perturbations. So most of the time we walk, looking forward straight ahead. And it's not necessarily the straight ahead that we have problems with falling. It's when we had a Lego under our foot, or you stepped off the curb a little bit, or your hip bumped the side table. That side table set you to the moving to the side, and you weren't really well prepared to navigate that, what we call out of plane motion. And so one of the things that's really important in the recovery stages and when you are trying to prevent fractures in general, to me, is working on those out of plane movements. So with physical therapy, not just being able to walk again, but it's really understanding your body's tolerance to if you took a little bit of an impact, can you bounce back from that? And so I send a lot of people to physical therapy that I'm worried about. Someone, if they've called 911 for a fall, but they didn't actually get injured, these are great people to consider getting them to physical therapy to figure out if there's something that they can work on to make a little bit stronger to recover from that unexpected perturbation that can occur.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. The other thing to add is Tai Chi is one of those literature proven exercises that it's a slow moving kind of regrowing the neurons between your brain and your feet. And for the people that don't have the resources to go to physical therapy or don't want to go to physical therapy, that you could even do it on YouTube or on the internet, just 5-10 minutes a day, pulling up some Tai Chi exercises.
Yeah, those are great points. Great points. Any other thoughts around that transition to home safely that come up for you, Dr. Sorich?
I feel like you've brought out a lot of great ideas, and this was really insightful.
Yeah, great. Well, I think the one thing I'd like to add is, you may hear the word DME or equipment that people get sent home with. And to emphasize anybody who is in this transition with their family, trying to figure out how to get home safe. I think it's really important that you talk ahead of time about the things that you need. Sometimes that might be what they call a bedside commode that has like railings and grips that people can do, or at least gives them an elevated toilet seat to safely to get down to the toilet, since our bathrooms are not always set up for that safe environment. But it even goes to things like, could you get a railing on the side of the bed that allows you to kind of grab and pull yourself up when you transition home, or things that like will really set you up for success that may not necessarily be covered by insurance, but can really make the life a lot safer. And so those are not readily discussed or made available. But I think if you, as a family member, want to look for best supporting, there's some really incredible things that have been designed out there to help people be safer in their own home. So taking some time to explore that can be really beneficial.
Those are great suggestions.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk on this topic. It's such a fun one. I'll end with a paper that I thought was really, at first when we designed it was silly, but we turned out to be really important. We were looking at trying to do grab bar installations for people who called 911 for falls, and we thought, well, we got a small grant. We'll hire a handy person service. And what we found out was we called the local places, and the majority of them who advertised things like that actually wouldn't do it, or would say that they were not set up to do that, or that they would book out months away. And they would charge $500 just for a consultation. And so we realized that was going to be cost prohibitive. And so we explored it a little differently. We had two different investigators call, one male, one female, on different days, and asked for the exact same quote for a health service. And the women were actually quoted up to $200 more than the men. Sometimes one of the quotes was like in the $700 range higher. And what we discovered was how hard it is if you educate someone to put a grab bar in, how difficult that can actually be. So it was a really surprising paper to me, and just, you know, a reminder to us that even in a big city, getting some of these simple things done are more challenging than we might think.
Wow, that's fascinating. You'd think that just calling a handy service that it wouldn't be that challenging. That's a excellent paper.
Thanks. Well, have a great day. Thanks for the opportunity to talk on these topics.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for another edition of Fracture Files, the silver linings of geriatric fracture care.